Hello, everybody. We're live. How are you? How's it going? Who's here? Who's here? Say hello. Let me know you're here. Sorry I was late. I was having a bit of a crisis because it was hot in here and I had to change. Otherwise, I would have been really uncomfortable. And so that was a last minute issue. But we're here and we're ready to talk. Are we not live? What's going on? Are we having an issue, the same issue I had last time? No, it's public. Okay. Anybody here? Let me know you're here in the chat because I don't want to be talking to myself. Ooh, goodness, it's hot. Here we go. There's a couple people. Hi. I was worried for a second because I wasn't sure if it was live. Like I had that issue last time. We got Adam, Quirky Chick, Katia. Hello. Hear you just fine. Great. N-Bar. Hello. So, how's everybody doing this week? To be honest, I'm having a rough day. I don't know. I was just watching this video like an hour before I started. And it was about the energy surrounding 9/23. I mean, it's the equinox, right? The fall equinox. So there's bound to be some energy issues, right? And what she was saying was that there was going to be some kind of negative surge, like a negative energy surge. And with all of the stuff, like we've been discussing this in the Discord, we talked a little bit about it last week. All of the stuff that's been purged on the world screen lately has been very dark and very negative. And hello, Nolan Owen. And so some of that we were talking about in the Discord about how odd it is that some of the details of, the issues that have been happening with Mr. Brand and Mr. Masterson, and how dark it is, and the details. Some of the I was reading one of the posts because last time I talked about this, I didn't know much about what was going on. I knew it was happening, and I knew very little about the details. So I found this post about what happened with Mr. Masterson, and the details, the graphic details in this post were kind of shocking that they were made public on a platform like eOnline, which is an entertainment website that teenagers go to. Like their target audience is usually, late teens, early 20s. That's their target market. So I'm kind of shocked that this graphic description was made public, no warning, no trigger warning for people. It was just there like a regular article. And I found it very disturbing, whether it's, true or not. Adam, equal and opposite reactions. If there's a lot of darkness out there, then perhaps there's a lot of light in here, just spitballing. Yeah. Hi, Andrea. Eternal being, hello. Yeah, I think so too. And it's got to maintain the balance. So you have, we're purging a lot of what's happening with us. What we're purging must be coming up on the big screen, on the, the world stage, right? So, there's the whole world is a stage, but then there's the big silver screen, which is the world stage. And it's kind of an amplifier to your own life. And you'll be able to see your life story reflected back to you off of the screen. And I don't know how many of you are noticing this lately, but it seems as though it's getting more specific, and that's to do with the story collapse. And, if you're familiar with my work, I did a video some time ago called The One Story Collapse. And it was based off of this incident that happened called the Candle Factory in the tornado that happened. I think it was 2021. I'm not sure. There was a candle factory that collapsed in the tornado, and the tornado was the big one in the West, like the Midwest in the United States. It went across 8 states, and it was quite destructive. But then they had this candle factory story ready to go, and it triggered an awakening in me, a revelation of understanding that the story is collapsing, and that's what they're showing us. And so as the story collapses, you'll start to see more direct references to your own life projected on the screen. At least that's what's happening for me and a few other people I've been talking to. So, yeah, I don't know if you're noticing that, but I think the more you awaken to the true nature of this reality and to your own story, you'll be able to see that. Hi, Trixie. Hi, Adam. Can you do something about this trash bag fashion lover? I don't really appreciate that kind of comment. I can't seem to do anything about it. Oh, here we go. Evolvement. Hello. So, where was I? So yeah, like the last few days, all of this stuff that's been purged on the world stage, this negative stuff, kind of culminated in on Friday, on the 22nd. And everybody has been saying that there's going to be some big event on 9/22, 9/23, and there wasn't. So that's interesting. But Adam, you're driving. Don't worry about it. Anybody else who has a wrench, if you're available and able to, just keep an eye on it. I'm going to make a couple more of you as moderators. So, yeah, like they said that there was going to be some big event. No, it really wasn't any big event. And perhaps what was going on was an energetic thing. There's a lot of times these big events that people think there's something going to happen, but it's just an energetic thing. It's just tied to the stars. It's a cyclical thing. But what else came out on the 22nd was Love is Blind came out on the 22nd, season 5. And, I watched that show. I won't get too heavily into it because I could talk about it forever and bore you to death. But there's a lot of negativity in that. And kind of came away from it feeling very dark and very kind of disturbed and feeling this imbalance. And so, yeah, like there's that going on. There's the stuff that's going on with the at least 2 people, several other people. And, this is sort of a big purging, I guess. But as you see all of this stuff rising up on the external, it also affects you internally, and you start to look at your own life and you start to think, well, where do you draw the line with all of the allegations that have been going on and in the public, and there, some of the things that people are saying is classified as SA, is kind of a gray area. I mean, some of it's pretty cut and dry and obvious, and then there's some like a bit of a gray area. And so, I remember when the Me Too movement started, there was a lot of talk about it when I was on set, and a lot of guys were concerned. Obviously, this part of it is the fear factor, is this idea that you think that a lot of people are going to come out of the woodwork and start saying things. Oh, well, this happened to me 20 years ago, so I'm going to do something about it now. But most people don't have the resources to do anything about it. But the problem is that people start to worry about, being hypersensitive about things that they've done in the past, and hypersensitive about, well, was it or wasn't it? How do I even know if, like, how the other person was feeling, and was that something that was crossing the line or wasn't it? And this whole gray area becomes paranoid territory. And so you start to look at your own life in reflection of what's being projected on the screen, and you start to think, well, am I a bad person? Or, was this a bad thing? And am I, what kind of world do I live in? And did they do something? Or, all of this sort of negative thought starts swirling, and it can get a little bit overwhelming, but it can also be just like in depression or anything, like when you change your perspective and you start to hyper focus on something, your perspective gets warped, because you start to see things in a light that you didn't see them before. And because it's a gray area, it can go either way. So you start to look at things as like, well, could it be? And then you sort of attach one thought to another, and it starts to snowball out of control. It can get pretty bad. It can get pretty dark. And so, yeah, I would imagine that quite a few people are dealing with that sort of thing. Listening in, Suzanne, hello. Love your sharing vids. Love to you, everyone, everywhere. Thanks, Suzanne. N-bar, whenever I call attention to a predicted event, it never happens. It does nothing to change my consciousness if it isn't a surprise. Well, exactly. I've noticed that too. If all of these events, everybody keeps focusing on certain dates, saying, oh, there's something big is going to happen on these dates, and then nothing really happens. And then if you're looking for something, the universe knows this. If you're looking for something, it doesn't have the opportunity to surprise you. So if you're looking for something, then it implies a lack of it, and so the universe won't give it to you. Whereas the universe will surprise you with something, and it has to have the appearance of being a natural thing, which is same with like manifesting in street theater and synchronicities and all of those things are the same thing. It gives the appearance of being normal and natural and occurring organically. But if you look closely, or sometimes you don't even have to look closely, like synchronicities kind of slap you in the face. It will make you laugh. It will surprise you. It will delight you. You'll see the magic in it, especially with street theater, which, I want to talk a bit more about street theater, because I'd like to get a sense of how many people are noticing street theater happening in their own life, because I don't hear a lot about it from other people on the internet, but I do hear about it from a few people in my Discord group and everything, and people I talk to. So I know that it happens, but not many people talk about it. And I think too, like, you have to be aware that it happens in order to recognize it when it is happening. And very rarely do you notice it in the moment. It's usually after the fact, because it's so seamless and it happens organically and it just looks like normal. And then when you recognize that it's street theater and you look back at it and it's kind of bewildering, and you see, well, how is that happening in my life? Like, it's all symbolism, it's all allegory, it's all a message for me, and it's involving people I know. That's kind of weird. So, it gives you a completely different perspective on your life and a completely different perspective on the play, on the tarot play, and the world stage, and how things come to be. But it also gives you a different perspective on your own life and how the things that happen in your life are telling you something. The Roman Empire trend is timely, asking men if they think about the Roman Empire. We're in the fall of Rome, end of an age, and this is the exact thing that would happen. Cancel culture, wokeness, corruption, bread and circuses, economy collapse. Also, the masculine being asked is symbolic too. For context, there's an online trend of asking if men think about the Roman Empire and how often, and most men think about the fall of the Roman Empire frequently, according to the trend. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that there was a trend on that, because, well, I didn't know. But it is the end of an age for sure. And all of those things do happen as a result of it. What do you mean by the masculine being asked? Being asked about the Roman Empire? I've never heard of men thinking of this, so I thought it was an odd trend. Yeah, I've never heard of it either. Has anyone else heard of this? It's a TikTok trend. Okay. Maybe that's why, because I'm not on TikTok. Like, I have an account, but I don't go there. Unless it's like specific reason for research. But yeah, I'm not a TikTok fan. But yeah, like, it's good for watching trends. I would imagine it is, because from what I noticed, TikTok seems to create those sorts of things. Ask your man how often he thinks of the Roman Empire. Saw it on Instagram. It's interesting to see what goes viral and what everyone just repeats and remakes. Yeah. Speaking of which, I posted in Discord 2 videos, which I found really odd. Last week, I watched a video about the Mr. Masterson thing. A few days later, I found another video, and it's almost identical to the first video I watched. And the first video was called The Dark Side of That 70s Show. The second one was titled exactly the same thing. And the content was almost identical, point by point. There were some flexibility with what aspects they covered and how deep they went into one subject or another, but the points were in the same order, same focus. It was very odd how similar they were. It's almost as if they were handed a script and said, here, make a video about this and talk about these bullet points, but, pick and choose which you want to, take out or focus on a little bit more to make it your own. And that's kind of what it looked like. It looked like, a bunch of YouTubers were handed a school project, and that's what they came up with. It's very weird. And it was almost as if, like, again, with like the one story about how everything is just collapsing in on itself and focused on one thing. We're in a masculine age, and we're in the end of an age. Yes, we are indeed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard of it, so that's interesting. Has anybody in the chat heard of it? So one of the things I wanted to touch on with regards to like the world stage is these events, these tragedies. And because it's, a lot of the big common questions are, well, why do they participate? Are they all in on it? Basically logistic questions. Where do they go? The people who die, where do they go? And why do they do it? And how do they keep quiet? And all of this sort of stuff. And, the more I examine these events, I have kind of two explanations. I think there's a physical explanation to some of them. I think some of these are, staged to look kind of awkward, so that, they're not meant to look real, so that you poke holes in them, so that you realize there's something off. And then there's the metaphysical side of it. And I think the physical staged aspect is meant to cover up the metaphysical side. So it's kind of like gatekeepers, where they will give you a little bit of truth, but they'll keep you at the gates. And only the ones who see past that are allowed to see the metaphysical side. So it's kind of like with rigged sports. They'll tell us on the surface, they'll tell us that sports is rigged. And then, you'll have in the media reports of a football game being rigged, and somebody gets charged for it, and there's like big scandal, and then it'll go away and people will forget about it. And the ones who are paying attention will see past that and start to examine sports, and then realize that it's more than just one game here and there. It's like the whole thing is rigged, but they'll still see it on the physical side. And then if you keep looking beyond that, you'll see things that there's no way that it's physical. It has to be metaphysical or spiritual, supernatural. So it's like the tiered thing. The physical part of it is meant to look awkward, meant to look fake, so that it's like a clue, but it's also a red herring, and it catches people at the gates at every step. And as you understand from things that are happening in your own life, like street theater, and you start to see, like law of attraction coming into play, and you start to see how thoughts create things, but also the sort of fakery and staged aspects of your own life, and understand that part of it. And then, like, there's no way that somebody's faking that. This street theater is happening organically, it's part of the metaphysical play. Then you can understand how it happens on a bigger scale. And, things like rigged sports, there's no way that the way that something is edited, there's no way that they would have been able to time it so that they capture a certain play at a certain time, where somebody with a certain number is doing a certain move with another person with a certain number. I mean, they can orchestrate certain things to some extent in the physical, but a lot of it is beyond them. It's beyond the physical. So I just did a short vid of stinkhorn mushrooms outside my house and got a hoot as to this mushroom. Talk about masculine. I don't understand. Speaking of Scientology, apparently Hulk Hogan married one named Sky Daily. I feel coding happening. HH is 88 for 1. Yeah, probably. I mean, honored to have a wrench. Thank you. Just realized. Oh, you're welcome. Lana Labonte. I live in Clearwater, up the street from the Scientology cult. I see HH all the time. Yeah. I remember in Toronto, there was a Scientology center on Yonge Street, and there was never anybody in there. I don't know how they survived. I never saw anyone in there, and it was quite a sizable location. It wasn't huge, but it was pretty big. And on Yonge Street too. I mean, Yonge Street is prime downtown real estate. My whole life seems to be street theater. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like the things that happen, for the most part, you should be able to look at it and examine it and dissect, like I do my decodes. You can look at your life and find out what it's telling you by decoding it. And I wouldn't do it on everything. It would drive you nuts. Just the things that stand out. Like, you can tell when something in your life is street theater because it stands out. It's usually a short series of events. It's usually somebody speaking very loudly to get your attention, somebody talking about something kind of weird that doesn't seem to make sense. It still feels organic, but there's something off about it. It's something that just makes you think, well, there's something off, something weird here. And your attention gets called to it. So you might think, well, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I went to this store. I don't normally go here. I was busy doing something, and then I had this thought that came to me, and so I thought, well, I should just go to the park, or I should go for a walk, and I don't normally go for a walk at that time. And then that happened, and it just seemed a little out of place. So maybe it's street theater. So those are the types of things you look for, because these little events are things that are designed to call your attention to them. And it also made me realize, like, what is in charge of my attention? What is directing my attention? How am I focused on certain things? What is in charge of my thoughts? Where are my thoughts coming from? Because I didn't even consciously want to manifest any of that. I was just busy doing something, and my attention was redirected. All sorts of other things came into play that directed me in that store or that walk or wherever I was. So for whatever reason, it's designed that you need to be there at a certain time to see a certain thing. So those are the sorts of things you want to look out for. Hello, Tammy. N-bar, anything that is presented as news is absolutely laughable now. How can the masses not see this? People are awakening, but that means I have to live through their pain again if they come close to me. I know. Yeah, it's obvious to us, but it's still not obvious to a lot of other people. But I am noticing, my social circle has shrunk significantly, so I don't have a huge pool to draw from. But, like my neighbors and everything, they don't seem to notice. But my parents notice. And, every time I talk to them about something that's happened, things that I talk to you about, and, mainstream events, that sort of thing, they're aware of it being bizarre. They're aware of it being weird and nonsense. But they're still compartmentalizing, still sectioning it off, not connecting them together. And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people who are still in the mainstream mind, is they don't want to connect them and see them as connected, because then that means that, the government is against them, or, whatever, all the world is working against them, or, you get to that paranoid mindset of the conspiracy mindset, which is the fear mindset. It's hard to get there. And then when you're in there, it's hard to get out of it. So, but it's a necessary rite of passage. You have to go through that conspiracy mindset in order to merge the two, in order to get out of it. It's a very strange game that we have to play here. The news is laughable, so laugh. Yeah, I agree. Mickey Mouse, hello. What we spoke about was awesome. Yeah. Hello, Marie Eve. Yeah, like when you can figure out what the street theater events are telling you, it's quite exciting and fascinating and revelatory, I guess the word is, because it helps you to navigate where you are in your ascension process, what you need to focus on, what's missing. And so for me, I've started to notice, like I was saying earlier, how almost directly the world stage is reflecting back to me my own story and sending me messages. And this has been going on for quite some time, but it seems to be getting more and more specific. And it's fascinating, but also kind of freaking me out a little bit, when you realize how personal it all is. And that's kind of, you get to a point where you're just like, no, it can't be. I can see it as allegory, as pertaining to this archetype, and it pertains to everybody who's in that archetype. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized, no, it's not. And Source was telling me that, no, this is about you specifically. So I find that shocking and humbling and bewildering. But, the more you look at what's going on, the more that you're drawn, like the things that you're drawn to, the things that draw your attention. And if you see yourself reflected in those things, it's probably telling you your own story. So, and then this is not just happening to me, it's happening to other people. So it's fascinating to me. I see a flash of light seen through the veil when they go back to sleep. Who's they? When what do you mean they? I laugh every morning when oh, you mean the people who are asleep to the news? Yeah, like sometimes they'll notice like they'll get a glimmer of it, and then they just like, they don't see any further. Is that what you mean? I laugh every morning when I look at the daily script, funny for a few minutes, then I have to go out into the world. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I was talking about this the other day, it's kind of difficult at times, because sometimes it's so obvious. It's so obvious to us that it's a play. And the metaphysical side of it, the magical side, comes through quite regularly, and we're used to it and we enjoy it. Well, I do anyway. And then there are times where the experience is way more physical and mundane, and then I start to forget. I start to like get caught up in the physical and looking for more of those magical moments, but looking for more of those synchronicities or bizarre street theater, bizarre events that draw my attention, and start to miss them because it's more physical, and it's almost like it comes and goes in waves. It's like, whoa, it's more magical. Oh, it's more mundane, more magical, mundane. I'd like to get it to a stage where it's just all magical, please. Emily P, hello. Take the laughter with you. Yeah, that would be great. I already have only one friend. This is sort of starting to get to me about the isolation, having pared down my life to bare bones. It was great for a while. I'm getting to a point where I'm done with it. Like, to some extent, like, I still appreciate my own time. I appreciate my own company, and the ability to, focus on things that I want to focus on, not having to deal with NPCs and that. But at the same time, it would be better to be around like-minded people. It would be better to have that connection to real life people a little bit more often, people who get it, and not just electronically, but in the real world, in the physical world. That would be great. That would be more, a little bit more ideal. But yeah, like sometimes the solitude and the isolation, and it is kind of limiting, kind of frustrating, kind of tired of it. But such is whatever the path is, it's the way it's got to be. So some of these things with the events, like I was saying, like with the metaphysical side of it, if you can get from, as with everything, getting from the seeing things as purely physical and trying to explain everything logically, and then seeing things as metaphysical, that a lot of the people that are involved don't even exist. If you can look at it as if like you are walking through a movie that's all around you, and some of the people that show up in your life are just there for the movie. And sometimes, they'll pop in and out, and they'll have the appearance of having a full life, because if you talk to them, then they'll tell you that they have a life because they're programmed to. But it's just like if you're in a dream. When you're in a dream, you talk to people in the dream, but they're not real. But you talk to them and they have a life and they seem real. They seem like they have a story, because your mind has given them a story in order to tell the story back to you, whatever it is your mind is trying to communicate. So same thing in the real world, same thing in our world. It's sometimes difficult to get to the point where you see things that way, especially the more you're seeing things in a physical perspective. But a lot of people have a hard time getting over the physical hurdle, getting past that and seeing the metaphysical side. Yeah, you don't need friends to laugh. You can laugh on your own. chat's kind of quiet today. What's going on? If there's other things you want to talk about, we can talk about it. Doesn't that sound solipsistic though? Which specifically, Ryan? In a sense, it's a co-created reality. So you are in this co-created reality dream with other living beings, and you are all experiencing this play together. So if you look at it, say you go to the theater, and instead of watching the play from the seats, you watch it from being a background performer in the play. So you're actually on stage as the play is happening, but you are, and then the actors start interacting with you, but you're the one that's created the whole thing. Big awakening for me on that point per the Maui situation. I'm walking around this week with a whole new perspective. That's amazing. I want to chat more about working today, dealing with the mundane. Sorry to hear that. I'm packing and going to be moving this week, but listening. Okay. Yeah, like there's a lot of times these events happen very close to home, and it makes it very difficult for people when it happens close to home to distance themselves, because if you're rooted in the physical perspective, you get emotionally affected by the event, by people around you who are affected by the event, and it won't allow you, your brain won't allow you to go to the place where it didn't happen the way that they tell you that it happened. So I've said things in the past about certain events being a production, and it's upset people because they're too close to it. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to see it as anything other than real. And it doesn't serve you if you want to get past this reality and see it for what it really is. So to be able to do that is a huge hurdle. To be able to especially see the events that happen close to home as tragedies, if you know what I mean, like as I call them, as the media calls them, the tragedies, the play. So, for example, the Beirut bombing that happened, 9/11 that happened, JFK that happened. There's all these events that people get caught up in and attached to, and they spend their time trying to figure it out. Even if you're, like there's so many stages. You could be on the superficial stage where, it's all real, and as it was presented to you as the true story. Then you can get to the stage where it's like, no, there was a cover up, and then you try to figure it all out. And then if you can get past that stage to say, well, it was all staged and it was all a setup, it was all a play, and then you can get to the point where you see that it was literally a setup, staged event. And some people can't get past. They think that it was like a false flag, which is not what it is. False flag means that you create an actual event and real people could get involved, and you point the finger at somebody else to instigate some sort of combat situation. So, say, for example, Ukraine arranges for some explosion to go off in Russia, and they point the finger at Poland, and they want Poland to get involved in the war on their side. And so Russia now goes and attacks Poland, and so Poland now allies with Ukraine, and they have no idea that Ukraine was the one that organized it. That would be a false flag. It's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about flat out staged, did not happen the way they told you it did. So yeah, when you get to the stage where you can change your perspective and see it in a completely different way, it's really liberating. It's really freeing, especially from the fear factor. Because if you are thinking that these tragedies that are, staged, you're thinking that they're real, you're going to be scared. But when you see them for what they really are, it frees you from the fear. Hello, Adam Gross. Caroline. I just watched La La Land. This stage play topic is hitting me close to home. Excellent. What did you draw from La La Land? Great movie, by the way. Ryan Stevenson, is anyone seeing blue light at the moment? Like blue orbs might be my pineal gland opening. I'm not seeing blue orbs, but that's interesting. On my way to work out this morning, I turned on the car and Get Into My Car was playing. So non-random. It's funny because that song, I haven't heard that song on the radio for decades. And then I made that video, Get Into My Car. And a few days ago, I heard it in the car. And I thought, wow, that's really weird because I haven't even heard this on the radio for decades. It wasn't even that huge. I guess it was a huge song in the 80s. Billy Ocean was pretty popular. It was one of my favorite songs when I was a kid. And it just stuck with me because I just thought it was such a good song. But at the time, I thought it meant, he was picking up chicks and making out with them in his car. Little did I know that that's not at all what it meant. N-Bar, major flooding here last month in Vermont. Neighbors' houses and businesses destroyed. Sobering. Rug pull can happen at any time. Vermont, wow. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, bad things happen here still. You're still going to be affected by certain things, and you just realize that it's part of the story. I used to have a purple-blue laser type light in my vision for a while. That's interesting. Apotheosis, hello. Would like to hear more about the Anunnaki, the Shining Ones, if not now, some other time in more depth. Yeah, sure. What specifically are you interested in regarding, or I guess just in general, you don't know enough about them? Lana, I actually just posted a video on my channel about the Roman Empire. Oh, that's interesting. Get in the backseat, baby. Yeah. No, but I am getting flashes of light as I sleep, and I'm in the dark. It's like someone has shone a torch at me. That's interesting. I was getting that a few years ago. A few years ago, I would close my eyes at night and I would see a bright light. So it's not like it was shining at me or anything, but I could see, dimension and light and everything as I closed my eyes. So that was kind of interesting. Don't know what it meant. Didn't really lead to anything. Have also been woken up a few times by non-existent doorbell or knock at the door. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you're having the same experience. That's cool. Yeah, Apotheosis, if you could elaborate a little on what you'd like to know about the Anunnaki, that would be helpful. Emily, it's me asking for cat memes. Yeah. These concerts like to shine those blue, purple, red lights. I just close my eyes and listen to music more, as to quick flashing lights do bother me. Suzanne. I haven't been to a concert in a long time. It's funny, the other day you mentioned get into my car, and the other day I was in my car, and on the radio was Hero, and that was another song that I made a video to. It was Awaken the God Within. And while I was listening to it, it's funny because while I was listening to it, I'm recalling the video that I did and some of the dialogue that I had overlaid with the music. And it's, to me, like that's the natural version. That's the version that it should be, not the one that's on the radio anymore. But it's interesting because like I had a really good time making those videos, and there's a lot of fun and play involved in making those videos. Yeah, I'd like to get back to making some of those, but time does not permit at the moment. Maybe personal, but I'll say it anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that lack of sex drive is a symptom of ascension. I believe I'm on the ascension path, but my sex drive is not gone. You're allowed to get personal if you like to, whether here or Discord, or you can just message me privately if you want to talk about something. But yeah, you're welcome to say personal stuff if you like, but that's your choice. What I would say about that is, we kind of touched on it last week because of all of the stuff that's going on in the media right now with and we talked about it earlier in this episode, or in this session, is the purging of the urges, the sexual urges, and how that's being projected on the screen. And that's part of it. So, what we have to do is transmute those desires and overcome them so that you're not at the mercy of those desires, and that the sexual desire, like the sexual energy, is supposed to be transmuted so that you can use it creatively to create within you, with like the world around you, that sort of thing. If you squander that sexual energy, it spoils your Christos oil, it spoils your Kundalini awakening. So yeah, if you're finding that difficult, and Adam talks about this quite a bit with the Dante's Divine Comedy and the Dante's Peak, and how that's the last, like the lust is the last ring at the top of the peak. It's one of the harder urges to overcome and to tame. So it's all about transcending the physical, like Adam just said, taming the beast. It's it's part of the carnal mind pulling you back to the physical. So that's why it's important to overcome that aspect. And we talked about this briefly, I don't know if it was a few weeks ago in the live chats, and we talked about it in the Discord group. And generally speaking, I think it's okay to, to make love with a loving partner, but in a sort of mindful way, but to sort of squander it in lust and superficial attraction and physical urges and the way that this world has conditioned us to sort of get your rocks off, and it's a stress reliever and all, like that is not the way to go about it. So all of those behaviors and thoughts and like everything tied to the lower carnal mind needs to be transmuted into the divine mind, so that you're not squandering it in a negative way, in a purely physical minded way. And yeah, like in terms of having it gone, I know, like in some cases you might have difficulty having it just naturally dissipate, and so you might have to do some inner work in order for it to dissipate. But also, don't suppress it, was the point I was going to get at. Don't force yourself, and don't suppress it, and don't fight against it, because that perpetuates it. Accept it and acknowledge it for where you are at the time, and also acknowledge that you're working your way away from it. So there's no resistance in it, because the more resistance, the more it perpetuates. Well said. Thank you. My husband likes to go to these concerts. I don't mind from time to time, although the lights are suspect. I'm listening, just watching my recently delivered 5 pups. Aww. And eating. Helping us wake up. Rainbow, hello. I feel like it's destroying society, true love, and families. What are you referring to, Rainbow? Notice how you feel afterwards, physically and emotionally. Yeah. The way that modern beliefs around sex and that are focused on sort of reaching the end goal, so to speak, is not what you should be focused on. I don't really put a huge amount of focus on this in my own life, so you might want to do some more research on this. But the way that they focus on this part of our lives is it's the you got to make it to the end goal, and if you don't, you failed, kind of thing. But that's not supposed to be the focus. And come here. Say hello. So you want to, let me see. If your focus is on like squandering and just reaching the end goal, afterwards you feel the high, then you feel the drop. It's kind of like anything physical that gives you that high, it gives you a drop afterwards. And also that part of life, as well as drugs and alcohol and that sort of thing, is seeking God outside of yourself. So chasing the high that you get from the end goal is seeking God outside of yourself. So you should be meditating and seeking it within yourself, because the ultimate high comes from connecting with God, connecting with Source, and that comes from meditation. So yeah, like hopefully that helps. It's about being the master of your physical urges and not being a slave to the physical to transcend. Yes, exactly. Very concisely put. Yeah, so like you want to go from the dog that's on the leash being led to the God who leads. So Apotheosis have done loads of research regarding celibacy, semen retention, not eating the fruit, saving the seed. Brahmacharya, keeping the oil in the lamp. Well, that's great. Is there anything you'd like to share from what you've learned? Because I haven't done a lot of research on that aspect of it. Some, like the usual basics, I guess, but I haven't dived deep into it. So yeah, if you have, please share. I recommend watching The Sacred Gate Back to Eden. Excellent. That's what I was gathering. These chakra colors, red, blue, purple, they're trying to wake up the crowd, perhaps. Not sure if it's working. And these events got a lot of booze pushing too. Yeah. My comment may have been blocked. Hold on. That's making me wonder why. Oh yeah, because of those two words, P and S work, and all the sexualization of women on social media running so rampant. It seems to be a mainstream agenda, but if they're trying to wake us up, how is that? Well, the way I see that aspect of society is, the negative or the darkness is represented here. You have the option of participating in whatever aspect of the full spectrum of naughty or nice you'd like to participate in. And the, like the whole, like you said, the PNS work, that is an option that you can participate in. But yeah, going that path, like there's an argument for taking the dark path as a route to your awakening. Like there's a lot of different paths you can take to your awakening, and that's one of them. And going down the dark path and realizing, hey, this isn't right. It can be quite an eye opener. But there's also a lot of people who are part of the show participating in that to present that as an option to you. So if you choose to go down that path, it's there, it's available, but it is there to wake you up. Everything here is designed to wake you up. So yeah, it's not a particularly pleasant one, but yeah, it does have, we have a lot of darkness presented to us through the media, and there's a lot of sexualization of not just women, but young people as well, which it's there to show the disturbed aspect of society, and how disturbed and how wrong this world is, how backwards it is. So the fact that it's generally accepted and generally okay should show you, hey, what is this? What kind of place is this? This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, my kitty cat. Thanks. I've limited the booze a lot, usually have here and there as a nightcap. Oh, good for you, Suzanne. I recommend watching okay, you already said that. All right, I already said that. Yeah, Ixie's big. She's a bit of a chunker, but she's a healthy, happy kitty. You're welcome, Ryan. I hope it was helpful. I'd like to talk about meditation. I'm committing, but still a struggle to go from thinking with my eyes closed to connecting to something within. It's definitely a big task for men to conquer, but every man must conquer it. Yeah, well, I wouldn't leave it to just men. There are a lot of women who have a hard time with it too, and not all men are having a hard time with it. For some people, I think it's just a human thing, and some people don't care too much, and other people, they do care a lot, and it matters to them. Part of that too can be mental. I mean, it is all mental, but you can flip the switch by like the reason you get into those sorts of thoughts is because you are focused on it, or whether you're looking at something or thinking of something, or you have these triggers that set you off. So there's certain things that you can do to reprogram your mind so that you don't think about these things. You can start to focus on other things, see things in a different way. Tell yourself that you're no longer this, you're now this. So you focus on being this instead. Whatever you say, I am, and decide that you are that, it will help you get there a lot faster, rather than pushing against something and fighting it and saying, well, especially if you're making excuses for yourself, like if you keep repeating things like, I have a strong libido, or I have a hard time overcoming these things. And the more you repeat those things to yourself, the more you believe them, and the more that it perpetuates in your experience. So you have to flip it. You have to stop saying those things. You have to say, no, I am a committed spiritual person, or whatever you need to tell yourself to change your language, your inner language. And you can even go as extreme as say, I am celibate. I am committed to my spiritual practice. I am spiritually, sexually pure, whatever works for you. But yeah, like recognize the things that you repeat to yourself, recognize, where your attention goes, the kind of things you consume, the things that you watch, and thoughts that you have about objects of your desire. In terms of meditation, I did talk about meditation some time ago, but there's different approaches to meditation. You can use music, which is helpful, especially if you have a hard time shutting your brain off. You can just sit there and focus on your breathing, focus on just nothing, if you can. Try to focus on the darkness, or just focus on a spot in your vision with your eyes closed. If you have intrusive thoughts, let them come and then let them go. Just watch them, observe them, and let them go. Don't start judging yourself and saying, critical things of yourself for having those thoughts. Let them be there. And then, and try not to think about those thoughts. Don't say, oh, here I am thinking again, because now you're thinking about thinking. So just observe the fact that you're thinking something and let it be, let it go. And then the more you do that, the less thoughts you do have. So what I've noticed as the end result is that my thoughts slow down. I'm not as, when I do have thoughts in my waking life that are productive and functioning in the world, they're not as sped up. They're more concise. They're more focused. And I'm more aware of the thoughts that I have. And, there are times where I have a lot of negative talk and, I'm aware of it. And I'm like, okay, well, why are you having this negative talk? Where's this coming from? How do I change this? And so then, then I work on redirecting that inner conversation, and you just become more mindful of the things that are going on in your head during your waking hours. But also during meditation, you got to find what works for you, because everybody's different. But find a guided meditation online. Find one that you find helpful, that you like their voice, or you just listen to music, or you find it soothing. It guides you into something specific. There's a lot of different options for meditation, and I find do it when it works for you, but just make time for it, prioritize it. I'll take a watch to that, Ken. Apotheosis, how many people in the world were born of immaculate conception? Vast majority born out of lust, even me. Oh, yeah, for sure. Eternal Being, I was watching The Nightmare Before Christmas last night. I got a chuckle out of the title, when you come out of the fear conspiracy to find Christmas. Yeah, that's funny. I don't think I've seen that movie. I'm not big on those types of films, so I don't know, maybe I'll have a look at it, but I'm not a fan of Tim Burton. I think he's the director of that movie. I'm not a fan of his. I'm seeing a lot of women, especially single moms, feeling pressure to do OnlyFans so they can be at home with their kids and afford to live. It's like a merry-go-round with gold. Sorry. Yeah, that's awful. It's unfortunate that there's not a lot of imagination that goes into thinking of ways for single moms to make money. And unfortunately, if you are someone who doesn't have a lot of skills or abilities or knowledge, or something that you can do from home, and it's not easy either. It's not easy for a single mom to focus on raising their child while trying to find a way to make money. And daycare is expensive, so you have to have someone to help you with your kid if you have to go out to work somewhere. So, but most single moms, they figure it out. They find a way because they have to. So resorting to that is not a necessity, it's a temptation. And there's a lot of similar types of jobs that are tempting because they pay well, but it's not any way for you to it's not a healthy way to raise your child or to live your life. A lot of people do it, but it pollutes you. It pollutes your mind, and it pollutes your life. So in order to get out of it, because you get addicted to the pay. And if you're not working towards a plan to get out of it, then you get stuck in it. Because I like I said, like working on set, I've met quite a lot of people who have been from all walks of life, including, ass workers who, and just strippers, and a lot of those, a lot of people who have been in that area find it very hard to get out because it's very lucrative, even though they want to get out. And even though they're working in film and television after the fact, like they might do it from here, like here and there, but they're trying to get out of that. They end up in film and television, and they end up doing nudity, or they end up doing other things that are sort of similar because they get paid more. And so they don't really see a problem with it because it's not what they were doing before, but they just do it in different forms. So then they might end up doing OnlyFans or what have you. And I've noticed like celebrities are doing OnlyFans, but they're not revealing everything. So that doesn't help either, because if celebrities are doing it, then it normalizes it. It makes people think that it's okay. And then they go and do it. And then, they're pressured to push the limits because, once the door is open, the goalpost keeps moving because, the money is there, the temptation is there. So it's a slippery slope, but I know that it's difficult for single parents. It's like a merry-go-round with a gold ring that only gets you another ride. There's no lasting satisfaction. It just leads to more desire, a vicious circle until you decide to stop. Yeah, well said, Andrea. Thank you. Rainbow, they make more money in a month than most make in a year. That's very tempting, isn't it? Andrea, Rainbow Warrior, most don't make that much. Only the top people do. Most only make just enough to get by. Most people I know see nothing wrong with it. It's mind-blowing to me. I'm not even religious. It should be sacred. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do whatever you feel is right for you, but it will pollute you. And for some, they don't come out of it. And some, it can get dark quickly and it can go down a really dangerous path. For others, they can get out of it and they have a rude awakening and never want to do it again. So yeah, it's tricky. That's probably true. I always see people online talking about it, and YouTubers talking about how much money they make from OnlyFans. Yeah, like, it's a big illusion. It's a big illusion that, it's easy to make money online, and it's not that easy. Some people luck out, but the people who make a lot of money online are usually the people who talk about superficial crap, because they get the biggest audiences. So the more, entertaining fluff, superficial crap, the more you play into the mainstream, the more you have your cookie cutter templates, the easier it'll be for you to grow your audience, the easier it'll be for you to attract advertisers. So, you got the PewDiePies and the Mr. Beasts of the world who attract millions of subscribers, but look at their content. I mean, is it meaningful? Is it changing the world? Is it helping people? No. Is it entertaining? Yeah. That's about it. So it's not for me. It's not my style. It's not my taste, but some people like it. And, it's the same for that area, that territory. It's easy to consume and there's a big audience for it. So those sorts of things get paid well. Rainbow Warrior, Andrew, that's probably, oh, sorry, I read that already. Finding God is far greater than any sex, for sure. Yeah. Andrea, this is a waste of my time and energy, etc. may work too. repeating that might help too. Usually it's more beneficial if you focus on the positive side of things, of where you want to go, rather than the negative and pushing against it. But if you say, like, something positive and where towards what you're headed, focused on where you're headed. Everyone was telling me I should try it, but I couldn't do it. My soul tells me no amount of money is worth it. Rainbow. Yeah. Listen, everybody, it's easy for other people to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. They're not the ones who have to deal with consequences. And, in my life, I've had my friends tell me stupid shit, and they, it kind of offends me that they would even suggest that I would do that stupid shit. Whether it's like one friend suggested I go on a reality dating show. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm interested in. And I don't want to be, on television that way. It's not my thing. And I'm kind of offended that you would suggest that I would go on that thing. So they don't have to live with the consequences. It's easy for them to say, hey, you know what you should do? And they don't even think it through. Most people that just come up with an idea, it pops into their head and they spit it out. They don't think it through as to what it means, how it would work, does it even apply to you? Is it something you'd want to do? All they think of is, I know a lot of people who are doing OnlyFans. Why don't you do it? They don't even I don't think a lot of people even realize what OnlyFans is, what it's about. I think they just think of it as a website or something. So, they say these things flippantly without thinking about it. VRRP, hello. Yes, but at the end, every woman is faced in the industry and any other realm of male's work to not enjoy. I'm not reading this right. But at the end, every woman is faced in the industry and any other realm of male's work to not enjoy if one likes someone and keep the work working. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Separating the intimacy from responsibility. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know if you can clarify. I can't quite follow that comment. Hello from Hong Kong, Sunny. Can take one to heaven or hell. Yeah, I can, for sure. VRRP, yes, it shall be sacred and beautiful. I did everything so my daughter finds true love before wanting to be famous in that road. I'm pro sexuality and freedom, yet respect towards one's job. You can see how they treat women in internet gossipery on Twitter, the jokes and critics. Where is love and people's perception to trust? Yeah, like that's... Yeah. It's one thing that I noticed with these reality dating shows too. And, like I said, Love is Blind 5 started yesterday. So people are very critical, and, like that's, I guess, part of the game with reality shows is you get to criticize the people who participated, and they kind of know that going in. But it's still, people are hypercritical of everyone on those shows. And, the most intimate type of reality show is these dating shows. You're putting your love life on television, and you're saying very vulnerable, intimate things on television. And I think this is one of the most intimate shows because they're in this cubicle talking to each other, sharing vulnerable moments about their personal lives, especially tied to relationships that normally they wouldn't share publicly. And they tend to forget that they're on television, even though they know they're on a show, because of the way that it's set up. the cameras are hidden, and when the cameras are hidden, you forget. So these people are sharing a lot of very intimate, private things that have happened to them in a public forum, and people are very critical, and some people are very unforgiving and very harsh and cruel. They forget that these are people. They forget that they have, they're just like you. They have hard times. They have issues. I mean, I think it would be helpful when criticizing these people if you think about, well, how would you deal with being in this situation? How would you deal with your personal lives and all of your opinions and everything that you say aired on television, and having the world judge you about how you behave and how you react to certain situations? Like, so many people are just like, oh, I don't like this person because I don't like the way they talk. I don't like the way they dress. I don't, like, there's comments from that superficial side to, oh my goodness, this person is just an abuser. They're a horrible person. They're narcissist. I can see the abuse, like, just awful things. And I think that it's beneficial for the reason I watch it. One of the reasons I find it entertaining, but one of the reasons I watch it is because of the psychology aspect and the human behavior. I mean, it's like a petri dish. It's like watching people interact in a petri dish, and you see an intense interaction between humans. So it's educational from a psychology point of view. So I get to understand human behavior a lot better. And unfortunately, a lot of it is negative. I would really like to see more healthy relationships, but healthy people, they tend, not all the time, but they don't tend to go on these shows. A lot of the people they pick on these shows, they pick to be on these shows, tend to be the attention seekers and the people who have major issues because they make good TV. But I would like to see more healthy relationships projected off of the screen, please. Because it can get very negative. It can get very, if that's all we're seeing on the screen, it gives you a very negative outlook on relationships. I've been trying to earn money while swing trading for a couple of years now, and I found it to be a time sucker. I don't know what swing trading is, but yeah, a lot of it is a time sucker. I find that the more focused you are on trying to make money for money's sake, it becomes a time sucker, and it's a negative experience. So if you're more focused on doing something that you enjoy and attach money to it somehow, the easier it is, because you're enjoying yourself. Mr. Beast is encouraging people to take Elon Musk's brain chip. Ironic, one of the most beloved YouTubers who wants people to take the chip is named Beast. Yeah, that's funny. I learned a while ago, never listen to other people when it comes to my life choices. They won't be there if anything goes wrong or if I fail. Yeah, exactly. That's why you don't should all over people. Yeah. Well said, eternal being. Rainbow Warrior. Oh, the ones telling me no when I say I can't do that. They will ask if I've considered selling feet pictures or my used underwear. Are you serious? Wow, that's just disgusting. Yeah, we're treading into dangerous territory here with some of the language. It's nice to see healthier and more understanding relationships. It's true. I used to love Big Brother. I can't get into any of the shows I used to watch anymore. Yeah, like some of them are very toxic and, kind of like we were talking about Rome, and it's kind of like Gladiator type curiosity. Everybody likes to stop to look at a train wreck, right? So it's just human curiosity. The reason it's human curiosity is because we don't really see that sort of thing every day. And it's interesting, it's fascinating, it's different. And it's also, this sort of human need to say, well, at least that's not me, which is kind of awful. But that's what people do. So I think for me, it's helped me have more empathy for people in their various stages of life and what they're going through and what they're dealing with. It's helped me understand people in different how they think and how they behave in their different life experiences. So I find it beneficial that way. It's very insulting when people ask me that and are serious about it. Yeah, it is insulting. Thank you for keeping it PG. Everyone is looking for love, the purest being God's love. Yeah, everybody is looking for love. Well, this is it. Like we're in the inversion world where it's created out of heartbreak, and so the heart is broken and we have to put it back together. And if here we're all looking for love outside of ourselves, when you have to find it within. And the whole, finding it outside of yourself, the love has to be created first. You have to create it within in order for it to find itself outside of yourself. What's a gape? Yes. Yes, God is love. And that's how you know that everything is here for your benefit. Even the stuff that's dark, even the negative, horrible stuff. Because if God is in everything and God is love, the absence of love is causing you to seek it. So it manifests in the form of these, awful, horrible, negative, dark things. But a lot of people have a hard time looking at that and saying, they will look at that and say, where's God in this situation? Well, God is there. It's just the absence of it. It's the experience that you can have when you are separating yourself from God, but God is still there because God is in everything. Unconditional love. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times people misunderstand what unconditional love should be. Um, you know, some people understand it to mean that they should be able to do anything, and the person who loves them will just say, okay, that's great. Do whatever you like. I support you. But if you're doing something that's self-destructive or going to land you in trouble, shouldn't the person who loves you warn you and say, hey, listen, you're headed down a dark path here, or you're going the wrong way. You don't just blindly say, okay, whatever you want to do. That's not helpful. It's not supportive. It's like, listen, ultimately it's your choice of what you want to do, but I wouldn't be a supportive partner or a friend or parent if I didn't say, here are some of the consequences that could result from doing that, and be mindful of it. If you still choose to go this path, I will support you, but I'm worried because this could be the result. And there's a supportive way of going about it, but you don't have to say, well, if you do that, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And even then, sometimes if somebody's doing something to you that isn't beneficial to you, they're trying to hurt you or whatever, you got to have love for yourself too. So if somebody tries to hurt you and they're not listening, when you say, hey, listen, would you please stop that? You have to get increasingly aggressive in order for them to go away and leave you alone. Even like if they follow you when you try to leave, or various other tactics. There are 7 loves. Agape or agape is the highest. Cool. I was having this conversation a few weeks ago, but yeah, in relationships are conditional, but they should be. Well, what is meant by conditional in relationships is that your happiness is contingent on somebody else. So, on somebody else's behavior. So if somebody does something that you don't like, then you're mad at them. I mean, you have the right to be mad at somebody if they do something hurtful or whatever. And it's like, okay, hang on, I don't know if I don't particularly like this behavior, and I got to take a moment because I'm getting angry, and I don't want to take it out on you, but this is not good. And if your well-being is contingent on your partner, or whoever is around you, that makes it conditional, because you are then making the other person feel obligated to behave a certain way in order for you to be happy. And that is conditional love. So you should be loving that person no matter what they do, and still be able to communicate, hey, I don't see that this is very helpful because this is hurtful, and I still love you, but this has to change, or this has to stop because you're hurting me, or I don't appreciate what you're saying, but like, you still love that person. It's complicated to talk about. Meaning you can't let someone run over you because you love them unconditionally. I've been burned many times loving that way. Yeah, like that too. You can't say that person can't have such control over you that they do whatever they want and you just go, okay. That's not helpful either. You're an active participant in the relationship as much as they are. And yeah. So like, if you both conduct yourselves in a respectful, loving way, there shouldn't be huge drama or this contingent of, I'm only happy if you behave the way I want you to. No, you have to get to the place where you can be happy with or without them, and what they do shouldn't hopefully shouldn't destroy you or whatever. But it's like, it's complicated because bad things happen and it can upset you, and it's okay if it does upset you. We're human. Shit happens. One of the hardest things anyone can do is express love. Reason being is everyone has been hurt, traumatized. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes these reality shows so fascinating, because love is so baked and complicated, and it brings out all of your wounds. That's kind of the point. Like, all to address all your wounds so that you heal, you deal with it. There's a lot of like channels out right now, especially like law of attraction channels, saying, well, you don't have to heal all your wounds in your childhood and blah, blah, blah. But like, if you're a walking wounded disaster, you're going to attract things that mirror that. So if you haven't healed those things, you haven't dealt with them, they're still going to manifest. So I don't really understand that kind of talk. I understand the idea of, well, I'm not this anymore, I'm going to be this. Like last week, somebody said they decided they're not going to be a victim anymore. That's great, but that deciding that you're not going to be a victim anymore is identifying that, hang on, this isn't beneficial for me. I'm going to change this. So you are healing and addressing the issue by saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be this. Equal respect and boundaries. I think what Apotheosis is talking about is what Christians call agape love, describing the love of God. I used to be very religious too, so I remember hearing the word a lot. Yeah, I've never heard of it before, so it's interesting. But yeah, there's different kinds of love for sure. For sure. I like the little floaty hearts. So you love your son and your cat unconditionally. That's good. Yeah, in this world, it's not easy to love unconditionally. And um, you know, it's also not easy to love unconditionally and then to also um, make sure that you love yourself. You love yourself unconditionally and look out for yourself. So, yeah, like this place is very complicated. It's ultimately, like in some ways it's simple, and in other ways it's complicated when you get into the details. But yeah, there's one of the things I was talking about the other day was this idea of trying to navigate our path and um, feeling like, well, how do we get through all of this? Like, how do we navigate our way through life? How do we even know where to go and what to do and how to cope and how to manage? And um, there's got to be a divine map. There's got to be, I mean, I know there is, but when you think about it and sort of break it down and look at your life and how you go, you can look at your life in the sense that you don't have a map in front of you. You don't have a list of things that you have to do given by God that says, here, this is what you're doing today. It's you're walking through life blind. You're laying the path as you go, and in some ways it can be very difficult because you don't know if you're going the right direction. You don't know, you don't really have someone to tell you that you're going the right direction. So a lot of times you just you're just blind. You're going through life trying to figure it out as you go. But there's some kind of divine path that's set forward that you can't see. And you have to trust that that's leading you in the right direction. No matter what you do, no matter whether it's something that doesn't feel right or doesn't seem right or looks different or difficult on the outside. I think a lot of times we don't have the right words to describe what we're saying. Sometimes people can be using different words, but they're saying the same thing, but they don't understand what each other is saying. Yeah, I totally agree. Especially when you're treading the territory of understanding truth and the non-physical. A lot of times there are no words to describe certain things, and a lot of these spiritual texts do a good job of explaining some of these things. But yeah, like a lot of times there aren't any words for it. And sometimes like when I'm trying to describe something or explain something and I'm reaching for it through the non-physical and it just comes to me as a frequency and I have to translate it into words, it's an interesting process. But sometimes the words aren't there, so I have to sort of compare it to something. I have to look for a simile or a metaphor or an allegory. I hope I didn't scare people off. I don't see anyone else commenting. I know, it's got quiet in the chat. So if you want to change the subject, feel free. You can talk about anything you want to. So where was I? I forget where I was now. One of the things I wanted to mention while I'm here, I don't know how many people in the chat are members, but I wanted to mention this because I've noticed that a few members are not getting the notifications when I post new videos. I post new videos on Mondays and I'm doing my best to stay consistent, and then I post videos on my channel. I release those videos on Wednesdays. So if you're a member on my website, I send out a notification on Mondays to tell you that there's a new video. And some people are saying they're not getting those notifications. So please check your junk folder and your spam folder to make sure that you have it going into your inbox. If you do not see these notifications, please email me and let me know. I don't know what I can do about it because it says on my website that they're going through. It says that they've been received, and in some cases they're not getting open. So those I'm assuming either you haven't received them or you just haven't noticed them or haven't opened them. So I just want to make sure that you're getting those notifications. And if not, do let me know, email me. And if you could be a member of the Discord as well, that gives me an opportunity to get in touch with you in a different way other than email, just in case if this persists. So if you're not already part of the Discord, make sure you're a member of the Discord. But yeah, I did email everybody to make sure that they are getting these messages, and just want to make sure you're getting, access, because you don't want to. I don't want you to be upset if you're not getting them. You should be getting them. But if you're not, just every Monday there'll be a new video. What are your thoughts on 10-4 and the emergency test? What do you mean? Oh, October 4th, you mean? I'm not all that familiar on it. I know somebody did a video on it. I think it was Mag. I don't remember. I'm not familiar with what that is really. I don't really pay attention to that sort of thing. But 10-4, that's the time that was on the clock on Back to the Future when Marty went back to the future. So 10-4 to me, the four stages of consciousness, 4 into 1. You want it could be symbolic of that, but Yeah, all cell phones, radio, TV receive emergency test, maybe not in Canada. 10-4 is also a police term. 10-4 is also a trucker term. Yeah, over and out. Yeah, 10-4 copy, over and out. So it might just be an American thing. Well, they got to choose a date. They got to choose some date, don't they? I mean, they could have chose. They can choose all sorts of stuff, but they like to choose their dates. They like to play with the numbers. But it might just be an American thing because I haven't had any notice here in Canada. So it's a hard thing for people to comprehend that there's no evil. We spoke about it before. Maybe you could expand. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, we talked about that there is no evil, and the whole thing about that is it's very difficult because it's all about perspective and perception. And a lot of us in the chat at the time were making some great comments to that aspect. It will happen 120 to 1050, and it's a FEMA FCC thing. Yeah, so we don't have FEMA up here. So it's just an American thing. Well, let me know how it goes, because that sounds exciting. We don't have that. 220 to 250. Well, that's interesting because, okay, so 220 and 250 is essentially the same thing because it's 55 omega the head. So 2s and 5s can be written in the same way as upside down and backwards versions of one another. So, if you see 25 or 55 or 22, it's kind of the same thing, but also 22 is BB or V. So, yeah. Yeah, they say 10-4, I think means like copy, or, like copy, got it, thanks, okay. So yeah, anyway, like, no evil. Well, I think essentially the best way to explain it is that if you're trying to cut out evil, you can't, because in terms of like how are you going to identify something as evil, you can't say that because somebody's done something bad by your judgment or your opinion, then that makes them evil. So they're not pure evil. There might be a degree of evil, but there's still something good in them, and the evil serves a purpose here. So even the evil that we're talking about earlier, and about how the S&P industry is this sort of dark aspect of reality, and there's a lot of things that fall into the dark aspect of reality. It serves a purpose. It gives you the opportunity to go that route, but it also reflects back to you the darkness that is within the mind. So it's showing the spectrum of the variety of options and the variety of thoughts and the variety of, the abundant spectrum of things that are available to you, options available to you, thoughts. But your perception of it is what makes it good or evil. I mean, yeah, there are things that you don't like. We have the spectrum of the light colors within the rainbow, within the chakra system, that tells us that things are not good, and things are not they don't feel good, and the things that don't feel good are generally not good. They're generally accepted to be bad or evil. But the things that are good make you feel good. But the things that feel good can also be bad. So, say, for example, if you indulge in too much sugar, you can get diabetes, or you can get overweight, or you can have health problems. If you indulge in too much, as we were talking about before, talking about physical pleasures, and you indulge in that too much, that can lead to problems. You can end up being, you can be seeking the pleasure that you get from the physical, and then end up, thinking that this is good. It feels good, so it must be good. And then you end up on the other side of the spectrum by seeking it, because you become, somebody who works in S&P. So it's all perspective. This is why balance is key. So where are we here? Beginning at approximately 2:20, cell towers would broadcast the test for 30 minutes. During this time, WEA compatible wireless phones that are switched on within range and wireless power participates in WEA should be capable of receiving the test message. The purpose of the October 4th test is to ensure the system continues to be effective means of warning the public about emergencies, particularly on national level. I understand what people mean when they say, okay, so when was this announced? Anybody know when this October 4th test was announced? Because it sounds like it's a direct result of what happened in Maui, because there was no warning. And the warning of excuse me. The warning, people are making a big deal out of that. There was no warning, and they didn't know that this was coming, and they didn't have enough time to get out. And so it sounds like it's coming off the heels of that, potentially. I don't know. But again, problem, reaction, solution type of situation where, it kind of sounds a lot like Amber Alert system, where here they use the Amber Alert system to send messages to people about warnings of what's going on. And they're trying to make it so that you are accustomed to it, that it's normal, because they're going to eventually use it for something. So to me, it's like a setting the foundations for using this system. That why would they set it up unless they think they're going to need it? I understand what people mean when they say there isn't such thing as good and evil or bad, but I know people that use that stuff to get away with stuff. Satanists use it, I believe, one of their religions, do what thou wilt teachings. Well, the one thing with the do what thou wilt teaching is it's attached to love. Like, so let love be the law and the whole of the law kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's part of like the whole attachment to the physical and duality again. And if you're living in the duality spectrum, then yes, there's good and evil, and you're looking at this is bad and this is good, because that's duality. So those are the two polar opposites, but they're two sides of the same coin. And in order to transcend the polarity and the duality, you have to see them as such. You have to see them as split halves of the same thing. So it isn't about justifying bad behavior. It isn't about saying, well, there is no good or evil, it's just what you make of it, and so I'm going to indulge in sinful behavior. It's just childish. It's about seeing that they serve a purpose and that they're two halves of the same coin, and that everything that you point at and say that's good and that's evil comes from a perspective. So you want to marry the two so that you can overcome the duality. Yeah, it's just childish behavior, childish thinking to point at something and say, oh, well, there is no good or evil, so I'm going to be a total asshole and I'm going to do whatever I want, and there's no consequence. There's consequences for your behavior. So if you want to indulge in sinful behavior and participate in lower vibrational behavior or lower consciousness behavior, then you can. You are welcome to, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be fulfilling. It doesn't mean that it's going to give you what you're looking for in the grander scheme of things. So it's just a juvenile perspective to justify poor behavior. And yeah, like, we have to go beyond pleasure and pain, Apotheosis says. It's about transcending the duality. So the pleasure side and then the pain side. And in some cases, the pain can be pleasurable. Some people can't derive pleasure from pleasure anymore, so they have to go to the pain side. Some people are psychopaths or sociopaths, and they derive pleasure from other people's pain. So again, it's about perspective. It's about perception. And you can pull yourself back in terms of being more objective about the world and seeing things from a higher perspective and saying, okay, I can now see how it's two sides of the same coin, and not be attached to pointing the finger at, well, that's evil and that's good. I understand what you're saying, and I would say more, but I can't. I'm trying to stay here. It's not PG. Yeah. I mean, the difficulty is people go to the extremes and they say, well, what about this? So, well, yeah, but it serves a purpose. And again, you have to look at it as something that happens or something that happened and derive the good out of it to transmute it. I'm not saying that the act itself is good or making the act itself good. You look at the act and you say, okay, what good can be drawn from it? So if you say, a lot of people will go straight to like the absolute worst, which is victimizing innocent people in whatever range of possibilities. So if you're looking at victimizing innocent people and you're saying, well, how can that be good? No, it's not the act itself that's good. It's the thing that comes out of it. So there's if you can derive some good out of the result and say, well, if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't have the perspective that I have now in I'm never going to do that, or I'm going to devote my life to helping people who are victims of that. So there's good that comes out of it, and you have to look at that in order to transmute it. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can continue to look at things in a black and white perspective and say, that's good, that's evil. It's totally your choice. Release date August 3rd. That was my first thought. They don't want another Maui disaster. Yeah, so August 3rd is very close to the Maui incident. Hawaii wildfires were August 8th. Oh, yeah. Duh. So, yeah, August 3rd. So it was right before that. That's odd. I can't post a link because I'm not a mod, but the title is FEMA and FCC plan nationwide emergency alert test. I understand. Okay, what the way you're saying it is how I understand it, but people distort this teaching. They do distort it for sure, and people are going to distort. They'll distort everything to serve their own personal needs or justify things. and teach others from the distortion versus how you're saying it. This was interesting. That was interesting. It happened on 8/8. Yeah. Still here, now I can comment. Yay! Glad to hear that, Tammy. But yeah, people will distort anything. But like if I don't know, it is a difficult and sensitive subject. And also, you have to be able to see things in the context of the play. So, not take everything so emotionally and personally. And, a lot of people are, I don't know whether they're personally affected, but a lot of people get very attached and emotional about the screen, about things that happen on the screen that aren't even connected to them. So either they get triggered by something that's happened to them or close to someone close to them, and they've taken it on as a personal issue, and then they see it reflected back on the screen, and then they get attached to it and they get all upset about it, and then that becomes a personal cause. And so if somebody brings up something that comes close to it, they get upset and they say, well, what about this? And they cannot distance themselves from it, and they cannot see it as a play. They can't see it as part of the play. So if you are in a play, again, let's go back to the play. If you are in a play and you are in the play as an observer instead of in the audience, and the play is happening all around you, if somebody in the play commits a murder or whatever, it's still part of the play. You're not going to get all upset about it and take justice into your own hands because you know it's a play. But here we forget that it's a play. So, it's very difficult to remember that it's a play. So you get all upset about it and you want to take justice in your own hands and you want to get, all bent out of shape about it. But if you're seeing it as a play, it's easier for you to understand that it's just a story. Therefore, the only person making it good or evil is you. So if you're actually in, say, a Shakespeare production and you're watching Hamlet or whatever, and Hamlet kills someone, and you're just like, oh, well, that was entertaining. You're not going to get all personally bent out of shape about it. Same with a dream. When you're having a dream, if you're having a dream and something happens in the dream, you have a nightmare, for example, it scares you in the dream. You think it's real. You react accordingly. Maybe you run away. Maybe you fight somebody or whatever, and you have this reaction within the dream. But then when you wake up, you realize it was just a dream and it doesn't scare you anymore. So you're not going to say, well, that horrible thing happened to me in the dream, so I'm going to set up a campaign to devote my life to defending people who get attacked by giant tigers. And because it doesn't make any sense, because it's not real. It happened in your dream. You can't do anything about it. But we can't seem to separate what happens on the world stage from our own lives, because we think that it's real, first of all, and that you can actually do something about it. You can't do something about it. You can do something about it in your own life. If you can do something about how you behave, about how you think, how you treat other people. You can do something about how you influence other people. Maybe if you're around a lot of people in your job, you can talk to them differently and influence them and inspire them to behave differently. You can inspire, if you're a teacher, you can inspire children to behave differently and be a positive influence in their lives. So, yeah, it's complicated just like everything else. So yeah, I guess that the whole warning thing, the emergency alert test, isn't from Maui, since it started beforehand. But I would imagine people would think it's beneficial as a result of Maui. I've often wondered if we are on a script and we can veer off, and do we write our own scripts and talk it out with our castmates beforehand? Yes and no. We are on a script, and the script is written in the stars, and um, it's already created. You have room to move within your story, but in terms of totally rewriting your story or becoming a different character, you can't do that, because you are a manifestation of your archetype. You are, let us make man in our own image. That is how you are created. So you are playing the role of your archetype on this stage, and your story is already mapped out for you. There are certain things that you have to do, have to experience, have to see play out, and you have room to move within that, but there is no free will. It's an illusion. And you have the ability to like manifest things, but all of it stems from who you are. And so it is an illusion again that those things that you desire comes from who you are. So it's already written for you. It's just how you go about experiencing it, which is the flexible part. That's what I was thinking. We have important events that we're destined, even if we go off script. Yeah, like off script is kind of an illusion because you can't really go off script. So there's um, the off script part is the flexibility part of how you experience it, but even those are already scripted. So it's choosing how you experience it. But that's uh, it's already mapped out. So like all of the parallel lives you've ever lived. So there's once you get home in the center, which is now, you are able to write your script if you want to. But essentially, the way I see it is you are telling the same story of who you really are anyway. You probably don't want to rewrite it. So I don't know if there's any point. Um, I got I got five BT five by the way, three black and two white. My son and I made new bed for the family. I got five, three black and two white. My son and I made new bed for the family. Oh, you mean the dogs that you just had? That's cute. Congratulations on the puppies. And the stars are like the map that makes sure we stay on script. Yeah, the stars map out the story for everybody and your story, your role in it. So your story, which is your chart, your birth chart, but also your name, everything about you tells you who you are. So um, if you're able to figure that out, it makes I think it makes life more interesting. And it's easier to figure that out when you find your stories reflected back to you in the movies, like movies and TV shows or news stories. They'll tell you who you are. You'll see it in stories that are sometimes they're very, very obvious. Other times not so much, because there's certain stories that I look at that I've watched many times that I felt resonance with, and I thought, like, I really like this movie. I enjoy it. I watch it several times. I feel like a connection to the main character for whatever reason, or I see some similarities in some of the other characters to people in my life, but it never really dawned on me that this is actually my life being reflected back to me until I understood how this place works. And I learned all of that through Johnny Depp and breaking his story down. And when I started to see that and see that that's what this, the screen is doing, the screen is projecting it back to you, you can start to see that it'll start to tell you, this is who you are, this is your story, and this is your path, and this is what you're here to do. Which I'd be like, well, this would have been helpful to know like a long time ago, to find this out now. It's helpful now, but it would have been helpful to know this a long time ago. But, I guess one of the things I'm noticing too, which has been kind of shocking to me lately, is I am seeing precisely how everything that appears in my experience, every single detail, appears as and when it's supposed to. There are certain things that I have experienced with regards to like the Plain Lady series, and last week I realized there was a connection to Donnie Darko. The plane crashing on him is Tom Cowling. The cowling is the part of the plane that fell on Donnie Darko. I never would have known that if I hadn't have analyzed the Tom Cowling Man on the Plane story and how that pertains to Tiffany Gomez and how those stories are interconnected, and then how it connects to Donnie Darko. So all of that I wouldn't have made that connection if I hadn't have seen Donnie Darko when I did, because if I had seen it years ago when it first came out, I don't think it would have connected. So all of the little details, I'm noticing how like certain conversations couldn't have happened without having certain experiences, and every single detail of everything that happens is divinely orchestrated. That is kind of shocking to see. It makes sense, but when you actually see it and you actually experience it, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird. So, that I don't know have you experienced that? How many of you have experienced it? We've been listening on big screen, by the way. Been a good talk today. Oh, thanks, Tammy. Rainbow, yeah, that's what I was thinking. We have important events that are destined, even if we go off script. I've come to think that too from experience in my own life. Tammy, I've always believed that, even at a young age, some things are meant to be, period. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because, when you think about the more you practice law of attraction and everything, there are certain things that just come into your experience and like, well, what is this doing here? I didn't manifest this. And you did, because a lot of the things are predestined based on your story and it's going to happen. But, you didn't consciously sit down and say, I want this to happen. And seeing others' lives play out around me, like having an awakening, and we all think we're going off script, but really it's part of the script. Yeah, it's part of the script. This awakening happens and has happened before. If you for anybody who's seen Westworld, the awakening happens in every season. It's scripted. The part that isn't scripted is the part that hasn't happened yet. Because Dolores keeps repeating the cycle. She keeps creating the world. She keeps bringing it back. She keeps going through the sleep-wake cycle. And at the very end, she's like, oh, let's just do one more last loop around the bend. So she creates it all over again. And she hasn't learned her own lesson. She hasn't realized that she's the one who stops the cycle, that she has to decide that this is enough. We're not going to learn the lesson. Let's get out of here, because that's the lesson to learn. The lesson to learn is to stop the cycle and get out. And if she doesn't do it, the world perpetuates. So, yeah. But all of it's scripted. That is the only part that's not scripted. That the part that's not scripted is her getting out. The path is pathless. Yeah, I guess. In a sense. I was thinking if the stars are just energy, maybe like magnets, and we are energy and magnetic. Our whole system is based on energy and magnets, and it makes a lot of sense how it all works together. Yeah, something like that. It's electromagnetic energy and frequency. It's like a whole new world. The show you were in, What Do We Do in the Shadows, is meaningful to me. I'm starstruck you were in it. Don't be. I've watched the whole series two times so far. It really does tell us what they do in the shadows. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But it's funny because I've heard that show name now 3 times within the past week. But yeah, I wouldn't be starstruck that I was in it. I was just in the background, and I don't think you can even see me. Apotheosis, has anyone in the chat experienced exploding head syndrome? Seriously, check it out if you don't believe me. Oh, that's interesting. Sounds mental. Be you. I seem to find the importance of seeing certain objects in my waking life through my dreams. That's interesting. That's really cool. Can you elaborate on that a little? Like on my last night, I had a weird dream. I was reading a book, and usually you're not able to see text, but I was looking at a book and I saw letters and numbers, and it was making sense. And there were diagrams as well. It was making perfect sense. And even as I was looking at it, I was kind of confounded. Like, how can I see this? Because it's almost like I'm conscious of it being a dream, but not fully conscious of it being a dream. Because I tend to observe things in my dream with curiosity, as if I'm in a dream, without actually acknowledging, hey, you're in a dream. So I was looking at this book and I was studying it, fascinated by it, because I could see all of this text. I think that's the first time I've actually seen text. I've seen handwriting before, and I've written notes before by hand in a dream, but never actual like book text. And yeah, apparently it's not a common thing. So that's odd. Yeah. Have you experienced exploding head syndrome, apotheosis? Yeah, it doesn't sound good to me. Emily P., yes, I mentioned this earlier, explosions, bangs, and sometimes loud doorbells, only when I'm asleep, though. I had a dream where I was conscious and I challenged myself that I would wake up But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. I think this has happened before, and I went out of body for a few seconds. So what is it like? What's this exploding head thingy like? For example, I saw a tent with flashing fairy lights outside, and I thought they looked cool. I then saw these lights outside of my mom's house, and she told me I put them up when you're home, which is telling me that I must make more of an effort to see my mom in my waking life. That's cool. So you saw these within your dream, or you saw it in your dream and in your real life? Both. Cool. That's really interesting. You mentioned about a bang going off inside of the head in one of your videos. Yeah, I mention it all the time. Um, it's the atomic explosion in the head, is the Kundalini connection. On the tent first, then in my dream. Exploding head syndrome is benign underdiagnosed sensory parasomnia. It's a sensation of hearing a loud sound during sleep wake sleep transition, like hypnagogic state. For me, exploding head is a huge crash or explosion in the head that wakes you up with a start. You feel confused, heart pounding, and then realize it was inside your head. That's interesting. I mean, I've had a lot of hypnagogic experiences. I've had a lot of sounds. I don't think I've had any uh, bangs or anything. Um, I've heard crying, screaming, other people's voices. I've heard the sound of a car driving by. I've heard like sound of a vacuum type of thing, or like suction. Um, yeah, just sort of weird noises, but nothing like nothing like a bang or anything. It's funny. There was one time I had this type of experience a few times now, where I go into sleep state from meditation. So it's a different kind of sleep. It's like a meditative sleep where I'm still, like, sometimes I'll talk myself into meditation, talking to my guides or what have you, and then end up falling asleep, but I'm still talking. I'm still kind of conscious, but not conscious. I'm sleeping. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I'm still aware of it. And then there's times where I do that and I end up in I guess some kind of an outer body experience type dream world where I'm still where I am physically. Like if I'm on my bed, I'm on my bed, and I see my room, but it's slightly different. Like it's more dreamlike. There's certain things there that shouldn't be there, and then I can hear things off in the distance, say in the living room. So there's one time where I was on my bed and I could see down the hall, and I heard the television sounded like it was on, and I thought, what, did I leave the TV on? I thought I turned it off, and I could hear this video that was playing on the TV, and I thought, well, I swear I turned it off before I came here to meditate, but no, I guess I must have left it on. And so I was trying to get up to go and turn it off, but I couldn't get up because I was meditating. So So I ended up waking up and then realized that that's what had happened, is that I wasn't actually asleep. I mean, I wasn't actually awake. I was asleep. So it was, I've had that happen many times. It's kind of weird, kind of freaky. Emily, for me, exploding head is a huge crash or explosion in the head that wakes you up with a start. You feel confused, heart pounding, realize it's inside your head. The exact cause of exploding head remains unclear. However, some theories suggest it could result from minor seizures in the temporal lobe as part of the middle ear moving during the night. Fear, emotional stress, or anxiety may also contribute. It's benign, uncommon, predominantly nocturnal parasomnia that mimics primary and secondary headache disorders along with seizures. No treatment is generally required as the condition is self-limiting. Reassurance to the patient is often all that is needed. Is that what happened to you, Apotheosis? Like, does that sound accurate to you and Emily? Because usually things that happen within the sleep-wake state is like the hypnagogic state. You can create hallucinations during that state because you're still dreaming, but you're waking up. But I don't know. I mean, there was that one time where, well, I wouldn't even say that was hypnagogic. But anyway, I was lying in bed. I was ready to go to sleep, and I heard a man crying, and I heard him crying 2 nights in a row. But I wasn't even asleep. So I wouldn't say that was hypnagogic state. But I've had a lot of things happen in that state that they're very clear, very vivid. So I don't know. I mean, they say that it's hallucinations, so maybe it is. I think I've experienced this before, Rainbow Warrior. Tammy, when I had my awakening, I had a lot of heat at the bottom of my spine. It was like that a couple of weeks. It stopped. Don't know why. Wish I felt like that again. Oh, it was a good, positive feeling. Sleep paralysis is another one. Yeah, I've had sleep paralysis once when I was a kid. And yeah, that can be terrifying. I know a lot of people go through having that experience for years. And I think too, the more, again, like fear, if you feed it the fear and perpetuate the fear and, believe that it's demons sitting on your chest and that sort of thing, which is what I thought. I mean, I was 7 years old, never heard of it before. So, but it didn't scare me. It scared me in the moment, but not to a terrifying extent, because I knew that if I just moved something, it would stop. I don't know why. I don't know how I knew if I moved, it would just stop, but it did. So I wasn't scared of it anymore. But there are some people who experience this for a very long time and are convinced that it's demons. And so, you end up feeding it, so it just keeps perpetuating. I have 2-day migraines and optic migraines, which may be connected, but this is the time of day I receive messages too. Never had sleep paralysis. Sorry to hear you have migraines. That's painful. I don't think I've ever had a migraine. I don't usually get headaches, so I understand it must be awful, because yeah, that can be debilitating. The time of day you receive messages. It's interesting that you receive messages in a regular time. Euphoria and felt spirit close. That's cool. Sleep paralysis is supposedly how you can have outer body experiences. Cool. Tammy, I just don't understand why it stopped, or if it did or didn't, if I did or didn't do something. I don't know. A lot of these times things happen and then they stop and there's no reason for it. It's just not going to happen for a while and then they'll just start up again. But, it's kind of like synchronicities or messages or, those sorts of things. They just happen in waves. If you overcome the fear, yeah. Have you put your full name and last name into a gematria calculator, and what value did you get? Also, how did you interpret the deep meaning from the ordinal value? For example, mine is 191. I'm not big on gematria. I use it very, very seldomly. I have put my name into it, but I don't know what the number was. My problem with gematria is there's so many different ciphers, and a lot of the people out there showing you how to do it are not doing it right. There's definitely truth to gematria, but you have to be very careful about how you do it. So yeah, like there's meaning behind numbers for sure, but a lot, again, the people who do the gematria stuff, most of them are shills, and they're showing you incorrect information. And if you want to know proper information, go to the rabbis and the Jews. They know what they're talking about. Hebrew gematria, also like the Hebrew language and the numbers associated with that, as well as the Greek and biblical, and breaking down the alphabet. There's some basic gematria calculators that are okay, but a lot of times people fiddle with the numbers too much, and they fiddle with the words too much, and they don't understand what they're looking at. So I tend to stay away from gematria. I don't find it all that meaningful. So it's not totally meaningless. Emily, I started getting migraines too. It's because you were able to move past it. It has to do with your belief system. Like when people experience near-death experience, some will experience hell and can't move past that, for sure. Yeah, it's like when you wake up before the body does, is the sleep paralysis, because your body freezes so that you don't hurt yourself while you're sleeping, get up and act out your dreams, which is why some people sleepwalk. It's not, their body hasn't gone into that paralysis state. So yeah, if you wake up before the body does, then you're going to feel, it feels that there's something on your chest or holding you down, so that you interpret it as, oh my gosh, there's a demon on my chest. The mind is a very creative thing, comes up with all sorts of creative solutions for things. But yeah, I experienced hypnagogia after experiencing entheogens, all gone now. What's an entheogen? Yeah, what's an entheogen? Psychedelics. Okay. Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, if you're putting your body into a different state, it can mess with your sleep patterns. So, um, yeah, I find it fascinating though, like that whole like the gap between sleep and wakefulness. I find it really fascinating because of like the things that you can experience and hear or see. When I was a kid, my bed would shake and I was convinced it was the devil because I was taught about hell and burning for eternity as a child. Good God. Yeah, like that's unfortunate. So I was able to move past it and wasn't afraid anymore. But as a kid, that can be traumatizing. Of course, it can. I mean, if you don't know what's going on and you're scared, you come up with explanations as to what's happening, and your explanations are limited to your knowledge. If you think that there's a devil under your bed, then you're gonna explain it that way. This was another thing that I keep seeing a lot of people saying doing this opens you up to devils or demons or what have you. Um, yeah, I don't think that that's a thing. So people, they think that meditation opens you up to demons, and I don't understand why that's even a thought. It doesn't do that. It's like, yeah, they'll look at some people behaving in an odd way and use that as an example to scare people off, and just like things that you don't understand, you're afraid of, and then you use your fear to explain it in negative ways, and automatically people go to demons and devils and whatnot. Entheogens, God within. Cool. I still don't like my feet sticking out from the blanket just in case. Yeah. Well, we all develop our little quirks from our life experiences, right? But but it is interesting how uh, you go through these sorts of experiences, and if you listen to yourself, you'll find the solution. You'll come up with the way out, or the fact that I was 7 years old, I didn't know anything about hypnagogia or sleep paralysis or any of that, and intuitively knew how to get myself out of it. I find that quite surprising. So the answer's already there for you. You're already being given the solution. Meditation is fundamental, primary, the key. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think a lot of people just bypass the meditation part. They don't want to do the meditation. And I can understand, like, if it's difficult for you the first time and you don't do well at it, and it's tricky. Maybe you think you're used to thinking a lot. It's not easy to get into. You don't understand it. Um, there's some people who have a very chaotic life, and the thought of pausing for a moment to take time to meditate is like wasted time. But it's the most valuable thing you can do. So uh, if you're someone who has a hard time, you but you want to get into meditation, um, find a different way of looking at it. Find a different way of explaining it to yourself so that you can switch your perception to make it easier for you. But so yeah, we're nearing up on 5 o'clock. So any last thoughts or subjects you want to discuss before wrapping this up? One thing I wanted to mention was I added to my website for memberships PayPal. I had as an alternative, a payment alternative, and I switched it to so you can still pay either through Stripe or PayPal, but I've set it up now that you can do automatic monthly payments through PayPal, so you don't have to come back every month. So because I didn't know how many people were going to want to participate in the PayPal option, so that's now set up so it's automated, and that option is available to you. And right now I am working on Barbenheimer. I'm working on the Barbie Decode. Tomorrow, the video is being released for decoding the Burning Man event, and that is fascinating. There's some really interesting things in that. And so that comes out tomorrow on my website for members. And the Tom Cowling episode is going to be released on Wednesday on my YouTube channel. So that's coming out. If you are thinking of being a member, please do. Please go to my website, truelove.com/membership, and you can sign up there. And on my website, you can see previews of the videos, previews of the ones that are available to devoted members, and previews of the preview for the Woman on the Plane series. And as I said, I'm working on the Barbie Decode that's coming out soon, and the Oppenheimer will come after that. I think those are going to be devoted member only videos, devoted and committed member videos. Those will not be released on my channel. So if you want to view those, I will do like a trailer to show you roughly what's in them. But if you want to see those, then you'd have to be a member to see them. And those are going to be quite interesting because there's a lot in those movies. So yeah, that's what's going on my channel. And where are we here? I try to do something that makes me feel love and gratitude once a day. For me, that's the equivalent to meditating. Sorry for all of the comments. All the best to everyone. Why are you apologizing for comments, Apotheosis? That's why you're here. At least once a day, but sometimes I can stay in that state for a while or several times a day. All the best. I wish I could always feel like that. I need to get back into meditating. I started slacking. Yeah, it's not easy to stay into the habit. Sometimes life takes over. But yeah. So if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up if you like the video. Appreciate it if you enjoyed this chat. And I'm here every Sunday at 2 o'clock. And we talk about all sorts of stuff, truth related. So nice chatting. Enjoyed the stream. Thanks, Andrea. So yeah, if you don't want to become a member and you want to leave me a tip, you can do that too. There's links in the description box. And if you're not a member of the Discord group yet, then join the Discord. That link is there too. Fun stream as always. Thanks, Rainbow Warrior. Thanks for participating, everybody who participated in the chat today. Great topics of conversation and great questions and comments. It was really nice to see you all. You brightened my day. Thank you very much. I appreciated every one of you. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your weekend, or have a good evening wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.